Welcome to Should You Platinum, a show where I talk about a game I've recently got the platinum in and share my experience of the platinum journey and whether or not I think you should platinum it. Should you platinum CYBERPUNK 2077? Well, if you'd asked me that when I first started my platinum journey, I would have definitely said hell no, as I just didn't get into the game's story at all. And while Night City looks like a cool place, near enough all of the main missions were bloated with lots of long drawn out conversations and lots of slow walking bits that just left me really bored. Sometimes you'd start a conversation and they'd chat to you for a bit, and then they'd suddenly start walking into another room and you'd have to then follow them around until they got to a point where they will chat to you some more to continue the conversation. The whole campaign was terrible in my opinion, and towards the end I was just frantically skipping dialogue, hoping for the story to wrap up. However, while going for the trophies outside of the story, I am pleased to say that I did have more fun, as it was now 90% gameplay and 10% story instead of the other way round in the campaign. So, in terms of trophies in CYBERPUNK 2077, it has 45 trophies for you to earn. There's 26 bronze, 17 silver and 1 gold, oh, and of course, 1 platinum trophy to unlock. In total, it took me 65 hours to earn this platinum, though the game's save file time was shorter. And overall, I would give it a 4 out of 10 in terms of difficulty, as everything can be done on easy. But while I did have more fun doing the side stuff, the platinum journey for me was a big grind, as there was a lot to clear out in each district. At times it felt like playing a Ubisoft game where all you do is busy work to clear a map out of all its markers. There's a BS trophy for each area where you have to clear out all of the gig missions and the NCPD scanner missions, and they are fun at first, but they just repeat endlessly and it's a slog to go through and clear each district. I feel like these should have been 2 separate trophies, as it's rather heartbreaking to clear out all of the gigs after several hours in an area and then get nothing for it because you've still got another 25 NCPD scanner missions in this area to beat yet before you've cleared it all. In total, I think there are around 89 gigs to complete and 156 scanner missions to beat, and while some can be beaten in under a minute, others take longer, so much longer, so this is a big chunk of the platinum time right here. Another problem I had with the CYBERPUNK 2077 Platinum was all of the missable trophies and missable things within the game, particularly the story outcomes and side missions, which you can lock yourself out of by saying the wrong thing or failing a mission. These sucked, and it meant that I had to use a walkthrough for the campaign so I knew what to say and when. Awkwardly though, missions trigger out of order, so it can be confusing going through these guides. Plus, there are still several mission, game and trophy breaking bugs in this game, even now on patch 1.63 in 2023, so you definitely need to be aware of those when you start playing. I had a mission where Pan Am just stopped driving a car, and when this happened I was just stuck, so what you want to do here is choose not to drive with her, and then she'll still get stuck, but it can just drive your car into her to knock her down the hill, and then after a while she'll start moving. There was also this mission here where you have to kill someone up the top of this skyscraper and then exit, but when you go to exit, the lift that you took up no longer goes down, the button's just stuck. But you can actually go onto the roof, find a ladder and climb up it to go over the other side of the roof to get on another lift that will take you down. Those are just some of the very frustrating examples of just the pain you'll feel when trying to play this game, and particularly when trying to get these trophies and just hoping that nothing glitches out on you, because those NCPD scanner missions and gigs trophies, they can glitch out on you, and thankfully they didn't for me, but if they did, that would have been multiple hours of just wasted time to not get the trophy at the end of it. So for those reasons, it's definitely an avoid it rating for Cyberpunk 2077, not even a play it rating, as I just didn't rate the story at all. Even with Keanu Reeves, it just wasn't really that memorable. None of the missions are overly fun or stand out, and for me, the best part of the game was the city itself, and the most fun I had was when I was just driving around the city, picking up things, because I got to see the cool looking night city. Yet the missions, they always seem to want to put you indoors, in indoor environments, away from Night City itself, so you never really feel like you're there. You may as well just be in some generic town. And the problem is, the city has so many cool places, but I only ever spotted these when I was driving around for those collectibles, and not during missions that took place there, because none did, and for me, that was just a problem. Cyberpunk 2077 still feels half-baked. I mean, cop cars, are they even a thing in this game? I never once saw one, I was never once chased by one, and let alone those cars, the street is still empty with very few cars, which, while it does make the driving more easy, it does also make it rather boring, and it feels very much like a ghost town a lot of the time. I don't think in this current state it's worth your time, which is why this video is kind of different to the normal ones, because it's an avoid it, or maybe at the very least check it out once that DLC Phantom Liberty update hits, but I seriously and honestly doubt any changes and fixes in that DLC are really going to turn around the base game. So before I go, I do want to give some trophy and platinum journey tips for those of you who are still going to do it despite my advice not to. And so yeah, I'm just going to list them off now. The footage is just going to be generic, but I'm just going to list them all off. So one of the biggest tips is to just make backup saves throughout the whole game, just in case anything goes wrong. When you start clearing out an area of side missions and gigs, make a backup save so you can always go back to it if something went wrong. You want to make sure you make a backup save at the start of the main mission, Search and Destroy. This is one of the end sort of missions, and there's an easily missable trophy for saving someone in that mission. So just make a save as soon as that one triggers, so you can always go back and redo it. Whenever the dialogue gives you a life path choice, e.g. mine was Nomad, so there was Nomad written next to the words, just pick it, because there's a trophy for doing that 10 or so times, and that one is missable. Another tip I would have is to save your money. Don't spend any of it on weapons, just loot them off enemies instead, because you're going to need a lot of money, around 1.3 million, to be able to buy all of the cars. Break down any weapon parts that you have in your inventory if it fills up, and you can use them to craft stuff. During the Cyber Psycho gig, back up your save there, because there's one of Johnny's clothing items needed for a trophy. I think it's his shoes, so just in case you miss it in the mission, you can reload that save, because you can't go back to this location in free play. In terms of side missions, there are nearly 100 of these, but you don't actually need to do them all. I repeat, you don't actually need to do them all, and that's something I found out after doing several that I didn't need to and wasting time. You only actually have to do them, the ones that are from Judy, Panam, Kelly, River and Rouge, as these are the ones that are tied to trophies. However, their missions are highly missable, so make sure you back up saves before you start them and after you complete each one, and make sure you say the right things to them by following a guide, so you don't say the wrong thing and lock yourself out of getting the next mission. There's a trophy where you have to get 50 or so slow-mo kills, and for this one you can buy a additional mod chip to slow down time with L1 and R1 instead of doing the slide and aim slow-mo, and this is much better because it lasts a lot longer, so make sure you try and hunt that down. Just search for that online and you'll easily see the one and the location of where you have to buy it. For the superhero landing trophy, knock out enemies first and pile them up into an area, and then just jump and slam on them. This was a really awkward one for me to pop, and it only worked when I did that. Drive around Night City lots, try not to use the fast travel if possible, and always make sure you drive down different roads that you haven't driven down before, as this will help you uncover more fast travel points, lessening the grind to find all of 160 odd of them later on. For the boss fights, you can mostly just circle around them and just keep shooting. Though playing on easy, you probably won't really have too much trouble. For the psycho battles, however, these are a little bit harder, so what you can do here is a lot of them you'll find you'll be able to kill them stealthily, avoiding a big battle altogether. So when you get into the area, try and see some objects that you can scan, and then use the distract thing on them to lure the person over to them, and then you should be able to creep up behind this psycho and kill them outright. For any that you do have to fight head on because they just spot you anyway, just try and take them out as best as you can. But if you are struggling, climb up onto objects in the area like rooftops or crates or things like that, because sometimes it'll bug out their AI and they won't really know what to do, and it just makes it a lot easier for you to kill them. There's a guy who's in an alleyway, I think, and he sort of electrifies the floor. That was a good example of this because he just didn't know what to do, and I easily killed him then. Sometimes you might find other gang members are in the area where you fight the psycho fan, so just let them fight them as well, because they will easily take the psycho fan out, and then you could just mop up the gang members. For the scanner missions where it says to clear out an area and get clues, you'll often notice you can see the blue icon as you approach the area with all the enemies, and all you have to do for these is simply leg it into the area and then loot the thing and then just run back out, because that will just auto complete the mission. You don't have to kill all the enemies and waste more time. Also, don't worry about that grindy 10 out of 10 trophy. I was playing it trying to get the assault one, but I ended up getting nowhere near it by the time I'd done everything else. So just search online for a pistol crafting exploit to quickly max that crafting skill to level 20 instead, and just play how you like. Finally, if missions or texts for vehicles or other gigs don't trigger, try returning to your apartment and sleeping. Advance the time several days and these should then trigger. If for some weird reason that doesn't work, drive to the area the gig giver is in and just move around there in your car for a bit, and hopefully they will call. Failing that, just head to the Badlands and drive around in the desert for a bit, and you should find that these texts come in or you start to get the phone calls. For some missions I had to advance the time 4 or 5 days before they popped, so don't worry about advancing time too much. There's no death clock and it's not going to matter however many days you go forward, so just do it until they eventually trigger and just hope they trigger, and if they don't, check out one of those backup saves that you've been making and try again that way. That's about all I can think of as tips. If you have any questions about the Platinum journey in Cyberpunk 2077, let me know in the comments. I will do my best to help you, but for my money, this just isn't worth the Platinum journey. So for me, Cyberpunk 2077 is an avoid it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.